Hey everybody, this is Giancarlo Alino reporting for Sportskeeda, and I'm happy to be joined by my guest today, who's going to be talking about an exciting time in the sport of MMA. He is the CEO of the PFL. He's Peter Murray. How you doing, Peter?
I'm okay, Giancarlo. How are you?
I'm doing great, and Peter, this is an exciting time. Fresh off some big news there. Earlier this morning, I saw the release there, that video come up. Bellator Champion Series kicking it off there next month in Belfast. So, can you just talk to us how this event came together and what made you guys decide on Belfast?
Well, yeah, we're excited about obviously the Bellator acquisition. With the acquisition that we finalized late last year, um, it really puts the PFL in a position to have a roster overall that's second to none. We have some of the best fighters in the world, not only on the PFL side of the house, but now on the Bellator side of the house. And so we obviously announced our first pay-per-view event, our pay-per-view super fights division, and how we're going to bring those two worlds together, meaning PFL champions versus Bellator champions. And that's the first event, right, as a result of the acquisition. And that will be an annual tentpole event. Think of it as our all-star game every year to kick off the year, based on those deserving fighters, from PFL and from Bellator, those champions, to mix it up in the fights that matter, that they want, that fans want, to ultimately prove who's the champion of champions. So that's in KSA, February 24th. And then to your earlier point, now the next franchise, right? That the next new franchise from the Professional Fighters League, Bellator Champion Series. And the inspiration and the vision behind this is, with the acquisition, we value the Bellator brand, its history in the sport, those great moments, fights, and obviously fighters over the years, and the current roster. And so we're excited to reimagine the Bellator, property, give fans an experience that is not only, tapping into like the core equities of Bellator and, the essence of the organization and those fighters, but also bringing in the capabilities from the Professional Fighters League, our storytelling, our production, our presentation, and then innovation. And then on innovation, our view is, this series really presents an opportunity to ensure that, candidly, every fight, every event matters, right? We're not just staging fights to stage fights. And, now we've developed a series format. This year, it'll be 8 events. Six of those events will be international, five in Europe. We do kick off in Belfast March 22nd. We think it's a great market. But on every card, multiple title fights, star Bellator fighters, those champions, those reigning champions, defending their titles, continuing their journeys, taking on, the top contenders, those fighters who have earned that slot, last year, and now they get a shot. And so we're excited. It's a premium property. It's globally distributed, and it's star-studded.
I agreed, and looks good right now that we're seeing just some of these champions, all the fights announced shortly. We already know about Corey Anderson, Leah McCourt in the co-main event against Kavanagh. That's a rematch that the Irish fans are gonna love, but there's also that question because of the Saudi Arabia event coming up, which we'll get to, and this event, Cris Cyborg. So I'm sure Leah McCourt thought she was gonna fight her. What went in the discussions here of putting McCourt against Kavanagh?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, we're excited about the Belfast card, and and Leah, continuing that, and the rematch. It's obviously, it's a globally relevant fight. It's obviously relevant in Belfast, so we're gonna have a good time with it, and we're excited for Cyborg to return as well.
It's great. And now
More to
this
come.
like yeah, and the PFL versus Bellator card, historic event there in Saudi Arabia. When the matchmakers and yourself like sitting around and thinking about the kind of fights that would appease this market and main event, was the heavyweight title fight always in that slot to main event, or were maybe some of the other fights on the card scheduled for that slot?
No, the heavyweight's the way to go. I mean, we have Renan Ferreira from the PFL, obviously Bader, top of the card. We're going to deliver the fans the best fight on top of the card, and we will be sharing some news following that fight, and more to come on the next chapter for the fighter who wins that fight. More details to follow.
That's great. Dropping a little teaser there. I like it. And just the Bellator and PFL fighters, I'm sure with the regular season also coming up and like all the fighters now on board, did you get a chance to talk to some of them regarding the division like middleweight and bantamweight, if like maybe the regular season might be an option for them going forward?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we haven't announced the fighters who are in our season roster. That's coming in the coming weeks. We start our PFL Global season, and what I can tell you is half of that roster in the PFL Global season will be made up of some of those top performing Bellator fighters wanting to not only take on the talent in the PFL, but our true sports season format, where fighters, as you know, over 8 months, they have to compete. If they get through the championship 4 times. So it really is, one of the toughest tests in MMA. And so we'll be announcing those details shortly. And then the fighters who are in the Bellator Champion Series, that format just made a lot of sense. So, now we have a whole portfolio of franchises, from the pay-per-view super fights division that we're launching to the PFL Global season and international leagues, PFL Europe, PFL MENA this year, and now the Bellator Champion Series. We're talking 30 events distributed globally this year from the Professional Fighters League portfolio.
And just even with that, like the portfolio, with the TV rights coming into the discussion there, like, is this all going to be like every single, like the Bellator Champion Series, the PFL events, like, is it stationed on the same distribution deal, or is that like separate discussions?
I'm really not sure what your question is. I mean, we have global distribution in all markets around the world that will be distributing both our PFL properties as well as Bellator properties. In many cases, or in most cases, it'll be the same media partners, for markets around the world. And then in some cases, they'll be different in each market. But what I can tell you is, we have quality distribution reach on major, premium sports platforms. And those details will be shared as we get closer to officially launching the Bellator Champion Series, as well as the PFL Global Season International Leagues. So more to come on those details as we prepare for launches.
That's great. And PFL made a lot of announcements in the past year, a lot of exciting ones in terms of the roster. A lot of boxers coming over. Claressa Shields is already on the roster, but Amanda Serrano joining the mix, Jake Paul joining the mix. Uh, when the discussions now come up of like who to match them up with, is it like, do you look for boxers to come over in MMA? Maybe they fight each other, or are you going to see how the boxers fare against other MMA fighters?
Oh yeah, I mean it's exciting. PFLW, PFL Women's. We have some of the best women in the world from overall combat sports. On the MMA side of the house, obviously with Cyborg. So many others. We have Larissa Pacheco. That'll be a matchup, down the road that I know fans are looking forward to in the fighters. In addition to those crossover fighters, literally the best boxing athletes, women professional boxing athletes, champions, coming over to MMA, exclusively fighting for the PFL on their journeys as they continue as, major combat athletes and stars, but taking on the sport of MMA humbly. From Claressa Shields, Claressa's on the card. She'll make history in KSA February 24th as a woman competing on the first ever major MMA event in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh, on our pay-per-view card. That'll be our third fight. She's 1-1. She's got something to prove. She's not done with this sport, as she's competing, obviously, as a high level, as a four-belt, champion, as a professional boxer. And then, yes, Savannah Marshall, also looking at MMA and the PFL to make her mark not only on boxing but on MMA. And we're really excited about Savannah making her debut coming up in the UK, likely in Newcastle. More details to follow on that, where she's from. And then, once she develops a little further, those two competitors will absolutely revisit, the opportunity to fight one another, but not in boxing, in MMA. And last year, their boxing, bout in London was the highest, it was the most viewed women's boxing event in history. And so we're going to get to see, both Claressa and Savannah get after it again in the PFL Smart Case. So we're building towards that.
That's great. And before we wrap up and let you go here, how can our viewers here at Sportskeeda MMA stay up to date with everything going on in the PFL? I'm sure like you're gonna have a lot of announcements regarding Jake Paul in the future, Francis Ngannou. So how can they stay up to date with everything PFL related and also stay up to date with everything related to the life of Peter Murray?
Yeah, no, just follow our channels, PFL MMA, and year round, every day. We have content, we have news that we're breaking. So, we appreciate all the support by the fans, and we have great partners around the world distributing the product, including DAZN, who's a big partner for our pay-per-view event, February 24th, and ESPN Plus here in the U.S., and DAZN through many markets around the world. So. It's really a fun time in the sport. We're enjoying, candidly, advancing, growing the sport, and we know what we're solving for. And we know what we're solving for to give fighters opportunities, to give our media partners, a quality product, and ultimately fans. This is a growth sport, and as you know, I mean, fans are underserved as compared to other major sports, traditional sports. And so, with the UFC having 40 events, we now have, this year 30, and within 2 years, we'll have over 50. We'll have 6 regional leagues up and running, creating pathways for regional champions and then global champions. So, we're excited about where the sport is headed, what we're doing to fuel its growth and build a wildly successful league.
Highly recommend that follow, and excited to see what's going to be happening in the PFL. These events coming up, PFL versus Bellator in Saudi Arabia. Peter, I really appreciate you sharing your time and coming on here on Sportskeeda MMA, and wish you all the best of luck with this.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for spending time, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks so much.